Hello everybody, welcome back. We're going to make chickens. If you want to join me, I will do a little list of supplies and you can stop the video and gather them, probably stuff you have in your room or nearby. So let's get started. What you need is 2 squares of fabric that are the same size, whatever size you choose. So this was the first one I made. This is fabric and this is fabric and this is fabric. The whole thing is fabric. The eyes are made from French knots. And if you want to hand sew, you need probably some pins and needles, thread. Whoops, sorry, you're very close right now. I used yarn for the tail on this one and fabric up here. And of course the beak is fabric again. So let's get started. I hope you are all well. I am moving you up and hopefully the lighting is okay and everything else is okay. I did this video yesterday and totally was off screen for like half of it. So I am going to try very hard to stay on screen and not be too far away. Let me see what happens if I zoom in. Close your eyes if you don't like movement. Let's see. I'm going to try that and see how this turns out. And if it doesn't turn out, then what I'll do is a third video on it. This was the first one I made, and that was my practice because it's been years and years and years. I have a pin cushion chicken in the basement. I used to keep it up here, but it was taking up too much room. And so when I moved back up here after moving to the basement, I left it downstairs. But this is for my little pins. I want one for just my little tiny finer pins. So it works great. This is fabric that I have that I won't use for anything else. I don't even know why I bought it other than I really love it because it's bright and happy, but I probably won't use it for anything else. So I've been chipping away at it, making these chickens, and yeah, let's go. So these chickens, this one was about 3 1/4 inch wide, this square. This one was about 3 3/4 inch wide. This one, my seams, I didn't really take enough in them, and I want to make sure that they hold up. So if you have a directional fabric, that's something you're going to have to work out because I really stink at directional fabric stuff. So yeah, let's see. I think I'm trying to decide which part I want to be this part of my chicken, because when you have the eyes and you have the beak, this one, the beak really blends in on this side, but it doesn't blend in on that side. And I love that this is like purple and that's mostly yellow. So I love that the chicken sides are different. So let's see. I think I think we'll just do this. All right. And as you can see, my squares aren't perfect. These are a little, about 3 3/4 again. So, and yeah, not perfectly matched up. You're also going to need a little square. Now, for this size chicken, I found that a 1 inch square is probably better than a 1 1/2, 1 1/4 to 1 inch. So I'm just going to trim some of this off because this is like 1 1/2, and I'm not, these scissors do not cut straight at all, really, honestly. Okay, so then I've cut that side. I want this side to square up. So I'm just going to fold it 1/4 to 1/4, and I'm just going to cut there. Close enough. Close enough because what you're going to do is you're going to fold it into a triangle, and then you're going to fold it into a triangle again. My corners are not meeting up because I wasn't very careful about how I cut it, but that's okay. Okay. So this part is the part that's going to be sticking out. Now, I will point out that this part where the two folds are separate, you want that on the bottom of your beak. You want the solid fold at the top. No big deal if it doesn't turn out that way, but that's pretty much how you want it. So that's your beak, and I'm just sort of kind of trying to press it with my fingers, but my fingertips are very cold, so yeah. So I'm just going to pin it over here on my mat, until I totally need it 100%. Now, if you want to do a little crown on it and you want to use fabric, just get yourself a little strip of fabric. This is about 3/4 of an inch. Take that fuzz off. Well, you can take the fuzz off it or not. You can do whatever you want. Fold it in half, and you can either sew it with the two loose edges out, which is what I did on these, and they sort of, you know, when you trim them up like that, you can tease them to sort of stick out, or you can use yarn, or you could use a piece of lace, which I meant to pull out. I'm going to make one with lace, but not this one. I'm just not this one. I'm not prepared for that, so we won't worry about lace. I'll just use this little piece here because I'm using the turquoisey blue because it matches this. I'm using the turquoisey blue for this, for the beak, and I'm going to use this blue for the tail. So for the tail, if you're using something like yarn, this one I used yarn. That's a hand-spun, hand-dyed yarn that I did. It's from this spool here. If you want to use orts, you can use orts, and you can just, not the fabrics, but if you take out a bunch of threads like this, and you want to make them scrappy, just pull all the threads, you know, just pull a bunch. And then what you're going to do is sort of fold them in half, and then that would be the part I would stick out, and then I would trim those. I would cut into them like this and cut into them. So I'm not going to do that right now because I might do that in the next one. But anyway, and if you have orts of certain colors in there and you want them to be certain colors, you can do that too. Lots of ways you can do this. Okay, so fabric, squares, right sides facing. So if your beak is going here, that's what you want. So I just have to decide which way I want my beak. So my beak is going to stick out like that. Okay? And so your beak, when you're stitching it, I need to square up this end because if I don't, when I stitch it, it's not going to stay. Okay. So what you want is you want your solid fold at the top. Remember, you don't want the open folds at the top. So you want your solid fold at the top, raw edges together. Okay? And then you want your other piece of fabric, I guess we'll go that way, on top of that. And then either clip it with and you want it down. You don't want it too high because then it'll look funny with the eye. Trust me, I know, because this one's a little high. But you don't want it too low either. And you have to allow for your seam allowances. So think about your seam allowances. Put it together. If you can get your fingers to work. All right. And then the little crown on top, I'm just going to take this little piece of fabric, and I mean, you could even put it in this way with the fuzzies sticking out. It's okay. But everything you want sticking out, you're going to stick in. So the crown at the top is going to go there, raw edges together. When you flip it out, this will be sticking out like that. So whatever part you want sticking out, have it stick out. You can put it with the solid fold up against the raw edges. You can put it with the raw edges together and then clip it afterwards or leave it whole. If you want to use felt and draw a little shape, like a little scalloped shape, you can do that. Your lace can go in, but whatever side you want sticking out is going to face in. So I'm going to do it that way, and it's going to be not too far back from the beak. Okay, we're going to pin that. And then we're going to stitch. Now, if you want to stitch it by machine, more power to you. I've done plenty of them by machine. You're going to stitch across the top and down where the beak is, the side where the beak is. So across the top, I'm trying to get my fabric to lay flat. All right, so we got all of the nitty-gritty stuff out of the way. Thread. So I'm just using a thread that's made for quilting because I have a ton of this thread. You can use whatever thread you want. It's not going to show. I already have some here, so I'm going to use what I have here. Okay. So I hope this finds everybody well. And I hope you had a good Easter. So I'm going to close your eyes. I'm going to move you. Okay. There. That way I can see the camera. I can tell if I'm on screen because yesterday's video. Now, I tend to go very close to the edge, but my edges aren't real even and I need to go in. I'm frugal, I'm skimpy. I like to scrimp on everything. Don't scrimp on this. You want your seams to hold together very well. And this fabric also frays quite a lot. I just pulled that by accident and all that came undone. So you want to be in far enough. I'm just doing like a back stitch. You can do a running stitch and then turn it over and go back on itself. I've done that. I did that on this one, the purple one. Now these two that I just showed you at the beginning, they are made with wool inside, raw wool, washed raw wool. If it's not washed, it smells pretty bad most of the time, depending on whether it's from a male or a female sheep. You have one guess which one smells the worst. Ow. Pin on the other side just got me. Okay. Now the other thing you want to think about is when you're stitching this, depending on how far in you stitch, how much seam allowance you're giving yourself, it's going to take up space on the beak. Your beak will be really small. This pin is just killing me here. It'll be really small if you go in too much on your seam allowance. So just remember that. It'll be just a little thing poking out there. And experiment with the sizes on the beak. This is the size that I find works for me the best. About 1 inch to 1.25 inches. And if I was doing this on a machine, we'd be done by now, but we're not, so we won't be. But I figured this is a fun little project that you can make as gifts. You can use them for things other than pincushions. I have thought that you could use them for I don't know if you've ever heard of Hug a Heart, not heart, Hug a Heart, a pocket hug. Like, it's almost like a stress ball for me, like just to feel this. It's lovely. It's nice cotton. And you could use it as just a decoration. You could put a little hanger in the top. Easter has passed, but you could make them yellow and make them look like little chicks. You can use them for pincushions, of course. If you stuff them with wool or crushed walnut shells, which you get in a pet store or Amazon, if that's how you like to get things. The ones in the pet store, the last time I bought them, filled a, like gallon bin, and I never used them. And when we moved here, I tossed them because I really couldn't see me using them for much after that. I had used them for a couple of chickens I made, bigger ones, pincushions, and sent one to my cousin. And yeah, so then I didn't use it again, and I'm like, I don't need to keep this when we moved here. And now, of course, I'm kicking myself because anytime I get rid of anything crafty, I kick myself for getting rid of it. But I never got rid of my wool, so I have lots of wool. And now you're going to also stitch down the side that has the crown thing in it. Whatever that's called on a chicken. I call it a crown. So you're going to, as long as you stitch both those sides and you stitch it really well. Now, if you're going to use crushed walnut shells or something heavy, like you could put beans in it, and it could be a stress ball. You could put rice in it for a stress ball. I don't know that I'd use those to put pins in because I'm not sure what those things would do to your pins and needles as far as, dulling them. But if you wanted to make little squish balls or like bean bags for grandkids or for someone that you know is going through a stressful time and you just want to give them something fun, give them a stress ball. I know it's not something you think about giving someone that you might, maybe someone's going through a medical procedure or, hard times or anything. Make them a stress chicken. Why not? The chicken is the fun part. And you could either put something soft or something squishy like beans and rice and stuff like that in it. Or crushed walnut shells. And if you have stitchy friends, making a pincushion is fun. The pincushion, like I said, walnut shells, wool. I've even thought of making one with steel wool. I've read various things on whether the steel wool is good or bad for pins. I mean, you're not going to get the steel wool wet, and the pins aren't going to be wet. So I don't see any reason for it not to work. And I would think steel wool would sharpen the pins and needles. I don't know. I don't know. I've done a little research, but not a whole lot. There's varying degrees of whether people think steel wool is good or bad inside a pincushion. Now, the other thing you can do is you can pad this with batting, quilt batting. It does make it a little more challenging to sew through, but not that hard because, I've done it. I've hand stitched with quilt batting behind my fabric for a long time. If you wanted to, you could embroider or slow stitch the outside panels, but I find that if you have, I have a slow stitched pincushion here, and I stuffed this with threads and batting I have batting inside here. The batting doesn't do anything for the pins. I think it dulls it almost. But with all these stitches all over the top, with pins going in and out, I'm afraid that it would deteriorate the stitching. So you do have to take that into consideration if you're thinking about doing it that way. Quit talking, Martha. Stitch. I'm trying to make this so it's not more than an hour. So the other thing you can do is if you have flannel or felt or fleece laying around, like I'm working on some fleece projects right now that I'm not doing on camera. And I have bits of fleece left over. So if you're doing that, you can use those as your outside. But I just thought this fabric, I was searching in my bins for other stuff, and I said to myself, use some fabric you're not going to use for anything else and make some chickens. I don't know. The crafty spirit spoke to me. What can I say? So that's what I'm doing. Okay, so if you turn it right side out, you have, and I'm going to cut this down because it looks really funny. Okay. And then after we're done, I'll chop it up. So there's your beak, right? And there's your little head thing. Let's see. I'll do this now. We'll just go. What? Just little click. Oh, Martha, close snips. Get your words. Use your words, Martha. Okay. And then you just, froof it up. Anyway, so you have your beak and you have your little, what I call the crown. Correctly or incorrectly, it is what it is. All right. So this is where I get caught up sometimes. So what you're going to do is then you want to stitch, let me think. If I do this, I messed it up yesterday in the video and had to do it over again. All right, so if I do that, then I do this, that's the wrong way. So if I do that and I do this, that's the right way. So that's going to be where the tail goes. So the bottom, so if you have it this way, the bottom, you should flip it right back out, right? Wrong sides out, okay? Here's your beak, here's your top. So you want to sew on this part, you want to sew from here to there, about, and then you want to sew from here to there. Okay? Because that's going to be where you turn it right side out. So if you have nice pudgy fingers like I do, well padded, rounded fingers, little stumpy fingers like me, I envy those that have long, slender fingers. You want to leave yourself a large enough opening to turn this thing right side out without struggling too much. So I'm going to do this. Hello. Maybe. So I do hope this finds you well. I don't know if I said that or not. And that you had a good Easter. I think I said that, but I sort of flew by it. We had a very nice, quiet Easter. And I made a new to us broccoli salad, vegan style. And it was good. It was very good. Okay, so I'm going to do just to about maybe one more stitch. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back on my stitches because this is going to have quite a bit of stress on it. So I want to go back and do that. And I'm going to do that a couple of times because I want this not to tear when I go to flip this back out again. Okay. I want it to be very strong. Yeah. Strong like bull. So we're going to go back this way again. You can't be over cautious about how strong this is, because it takes a lot of stress turning it right side out and all that when it's very small. Okay, so I'm going to knot this off. Make sure you knot it off. Don't just jump across, because that thread will get in the way. Now, of course, if you're machine stitching, you would go back and forth a couple of times to reinforce those stitches. Okay, and then I'm going to go from, I'm going to leave about that much. Of course, if your needle is longer or your chicken is bigger, and you can make these any size you want, you just have to figure out the beak size to it, because you don't want this little itty bitty teeny weeny beak and have your chicken be this big honking chicken. And you have to think about what you're stuffing it with. So whatever you're stuffing it with, the bigger it is, the more stuffing you're going to need. And it's amazing how much you can stuff into a little tiny chicken. And these are like handheld size. They're chicken nuggies. That's what they are. They're little chicken nuggies. Mini chickens. Mini chicks. Okay. All right. So we're going to, I'm just going to go back and ensure that it's stitched really well. I sort of made my stitches a bit big. Okay. And then we are going to knot it off. And just to make sure that you did it the right way, because if I hadn't checked yesterday, I wouldn't have known I had done it backwards. Flip it back out again. Flip it right sides out. Okay. So you have your opening there. That's not the opening. Bear with me. You have your opening there. See how little that is, even though it didn't look like it was that little from the other side? And what you need to do now, the heck? Okay, and what you need to do now is when we flip it back over, this is how you test. That's how you know your chicken will be the right way up. Okay, because when you match these two sides, it'll be right way up. Okay. All right, so now that I know I did it correctly, I'm going to flip it back out again. Wrong side's out. Come on. All right, and what we're going to do is, you got your beak is over here, your crown is up top. You're going to take this open end and you're going to match up these two seams. And I put one way and one the other just to make it easier to sew. But you want these two seams, that seam and that seam, to match. Okay? And whatever you're using for your tail, all right, and I want to use a little bit of yarn, and it doesn't take a lot. Come on. There are probably some yarn people out there that are going, you're going to use that beautiful yarn for a chicken tail? Yes, I am. Because it's been sitting in my basement forever. Oh my gosh. Please. All right. I don't need that much. Cutting it off. All right. So I wound it around 4 fingers. I'm just going to do that. Now, I want this end to be the part that sticks out. So that end is going to stick in. Okay? So we're going to match up our seams, stick that right in the center. And I leave a little hanging out because that way I know I'm getting it all when I stitch it. Line up my seams. Come on. If you're using a piece of fabric, do the same thing. Stick it in there. Leave a little sticking out so you know you're going to catch it. And then you start stitching again. And again, if you're doing it by machine, I would just run over that a couple of times with your stitching. So I'll just... And this is something you can do in front of TV, while you're watching a movie, while you're watching other YouTubers, while you're sitting in a car. Really, I mean, take your little project bag, pre-cut your squares, take whatever you're going to use for your tail and your crown and your beak, pre-cut all of that stuff. Take a little project bag. You need your sewing needles, your thread, and scissors. I'm just going to go over the part with the yarn several times because I want to make sure I catch it all in there. And I'm skipping some space here, so I'm going to go through, stab a few stab stitches in there. I'm sure many of you have probably made dozens of these. Maybe you're better at it than I am. I wouldn't doubt it. And maybe you're over having chicken pincushions. But the mini ones are fun because you can put specific pins in them. Like if you have applique pins, if you have bulb pins, if you have certain needles and you want to separate your needles, you could put a little label on the bottom of the chicken and say, these are darners, these are, you know, this needle, these are that needle. If you have, or like I said, if you're making squishies, little handheld comforters, maybe you have grandchildren and you want to make little stocking stuffers for them. Yeah, I know, we're not that far out from Christmas, but, you know, do it while you're thinking about it. I mean, these are easy to make, and you can make a dozen of them. One a night in front of TV, in a week, 2 weeks, you'd be done. And then you got Christmas gifts galore for December, and you don't have to think about it anymore. And I think the mini ones are more fun. And it's a great travel project, right? And is it slow stitching? Not really. If you're watching Martha do it, yeah, it's slow. Sorry about that. I know, I know. Okay. Alrighty. So now you have to find your little opening again. There's your little opening. Okay. We're going to flip the whole thing. Now, if you want to trim down your corners, don't trim your stitching. Please don't trim your stitching. I might not have sewn that edge very well. I can always go back and fix it up. It's okay. Kind of in a hurry because I'm trying to get this done for you guys. But I sat here the other day and just took my time and played with it. Okay, there's the tail. Don't pull too hard because you hand stitched this. That's what I keep telling myself. Don't pull too hard, Martha. Just want to flip this little puppy right side out. I should say this little chickie. Come on. Get the beak a little tug, gentle tug. Top of it a little gentle tug. And if you feel like it, you can go back over the seams from the outside if you want to. Before you stuff it or after you stuff it. Not with a sewing machine, after you stuff it. But if you want to do it beforehand, you could. But see, you can see my stitches. They're not perfect. But, you know, it's holding together. But see why you want to reinforce these edges here? And then you can take a little tool, gently poke. There. Isn't that cute? Now, you would think, when are you putting the eyes on? Not yet. Keep patient. Be patient. All right. Keep watching. All righty. So, now I'm going to stuff. You can use polyester, right? Not the best for needles and pins, in my opinion, but you can use it. If you're using this for a like a stuffy, like a handheld, you know, squeezable thing, this is so nice. This has wool in it, and it's just so nice. You can stuff it with polyester, and it stuffs up really nice. If you want to use wool, use wool. This is, like I said, this is raw wool. These are locks right off of a sheep. Beautiful wool. I mean, this stuff doesn't even feel like wool. Like, it does not make me itch. This is such fine wool. It's a sin to be using it for something like this. This one, you can tell, it's still got a ton of grass and hay and other things in it. But I'm going to use the polyester for this one. All right. Some hay got in there from the other. You want to floof your, whatever you're using. If I was using wool or the polyester, you want to really floof it out, okay? Like, you want it to expand. So, and then you just gently, carefully stuff it in there. Now, my fingers are big, so I have to be very careful. I usually get more done if I do this. Now this purple one and this blue one, they're gifts for somebody that are not going to use them for sewing. So the polyester is fine. If I'm gifting them for sewing, I would definitely use something else that would help keep the needles sharp. You want to gently get it all into all the corners. And you want it really, really stuffed, in my opinion. You do you. I get on a roll with something little. I needed, after the last project, after the Huswif, I needed instant gratification. I took a couple days off, and I was sitting there like, I need to make something. I want to make something. but I wanted instant gratification. I wanted something quick. And I thought, you know, I'm coming up on 3,000 subscribers. I need some giveaway gifts. I want to make something for the grandchildren. They're both girls. They don't sew. Trust me. And I wanted to make something quick and easy. And like I said, I've been doing some fleece projects, but I got tired of that. I did a couple of t-shirt projects where you use t-shirt yarn. Got tired of that. And I'll show you those, but not yet. Mostly because it has to do with something that hasn't happened yet. So, but that's a coming. All right, so that's all I have up here. So that's going to have to do. I took the rest of it downstairs because my room is getting very full. Okay, so I'm going to get a new thread because that one's probably not going to do. Thread. I want to make sure I have enough. So now you're just going to stitch the bottom closed. And this you can't really do very well by machine. You would have to hand stitch this anyway. The easiest way. The best way, I think. Oops. But we're not done yet. Not yet. Our little chicken needs eyes. Okay. Oops, come on. Get a grip. All right, so I'm going to start in here. And you're just going to do the ladder stitch. Lots of tutorials about that online. But basically, you just zigzag back and forth, but you line up your stitches from where they come in and go out. And you want your fabric folded over. So it's folded over. And you can pinch it if you want to. And wherever your thread comes out here, you want to go in across from it. I'm no expert, so don't come for me. And you want to do fairly little stitches because you want this to stay shut. Come on. You need to come out first. Need that little corner out. There we go. Just needed a little help there. Give it a little tug. Wow, this went very smoothly with the other two. Cameras. Ugh, I've always hated doing anything publicly. Yet, here I find myself on YouTube. That's why I say I'm not a teacher. I'm not an instructor in any way. I wouldn't even call this a tutorial. This is just my version of what I've seen done. And offering it up for people who don't have sewing machines but want to make something cute. You could even make one a little smaller. Use like, I don't know, if you could manage it, a 2.5 inch square, which I do want to try. If you have a cat, you could put catnip in it. You just have to make sure your seams are sewn really tightly shut so you don't have catnip flying all over the place. But I think a cat would really like one of these. You fill it with stuffing and then throw some catnip in with it. My stitches are really ugly right there, so I'm going to try and close those up. Oops. Okay. And then I'm going to put my little knot in there. Come on, Martha. Thank you. Oh, for heaven's sakes. Hold on. Gotta rethread, of course. Oh my gosh. I'm not going to be able to thread the needle. Watch. Oh, yay. Okay. And do one more. Ow. Okay. All right. And then I'm going to go down, come out somewhere else, pull really tight. Stay still. And snip really close without cutting anything. All right, now we need eyes. So let me show you how I did the eyes. Black, I have size 8 black. DMC. It fell on the floor, sorry. This is not DMC. Yes, it is. No, it's not. I don't know where I got this from. Anyway, it's black. It's size 8. Long needle. This one is 2 inches long. Can't be a little skinny needle. It's got to be a dagger style needle. Okay, something sharp. Don't knot your thread. You could knot your thread, but don't knot your thread. So you want your eyes. This one, the eye is lower because the beak is lower. This one I had to put the eye higher because the beak is higher. You basically want it, you see how much my beak shrunk? So if you want a bigger beak on this size, if you use 3 1/4 to 3 3/4 squares, okay, you want your beak square. This was 1 1/2, I believe. This was 1. So that's 1 1/2 inches. That's 1 inch, depending on how big you want your beaks. Okay. So I put my eye somewhere like here-ish to the beak. So here's the top point of the beak. Somewhere down a little bit, I put my eye. You know, do what makes you feel like it's in the right place. And then you want to go straight across. You don't want to go up. You don't want to go down. You want to go straight across as you can get. That's not straight across. There. Okay? I'm not knotting my thread. Okay. Very carefully pull the thread till you just see a little tip sticking out. So right there. That's all I've got sticking out. Okay? It's barely visible. But wait, there's more. In fact, I'm going to pull it a little more. You can even pull it into there, but then you're risking how far in it went. So I'm trying to do this so that the camera will see it. So I'll turn it like this. Okay. 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pull fairly tight, but don't pull that thread out. You're going to go back in, hang on to this, and come out where that other dot is, where the end of that thread is. You want to come back out there because that's where you want your other eye. Okay? Yeah, keep hanging on to this because it's a French knot. And don't have your thread going through the loop of the thread. Don't have your needle going through the loop of the thread. Duh. Okay. And there's your first one. That sucker's in there. It's not going anywhere. Okay? So you're going to do the same thing on this side. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now don't go back through where that thread is, but go right next to it. Okay, hang on to this. Come back out, not there, right under this eye or above this eye, somewhere around that eye, okay? And give a little tug. Now you have two eyes. Of course, that one looks bigger. Now I'm going back through this way, and I'm coming out right next to that eye. Okay. And then you take your tiniest embroidery scissors or whatever you've got, pull a little, pull tightly, but don't pull, you know, so hard you're pulling everything apart. Snip real close. Now you got two eyes that are secured in there. They're in there. They're not coming out. Okay? And you don't have any weird things showing. All right? So there's the chicken. Now if you want to, you can clip those. There. Done. 51 minutes. And I did it on camera. Just think how quick you do it if you're not me. Okay? And then you can take little scissors and you can rough this up. Or I could have used yarn up there too. There. So less than an hour, you got your chickens. They're squishable, they're textural, they're fun. Woolly ones for scissors and non-woolly ones for squishies. You can call them whatever you want, you know, stress buster. The wool ones are definitely firmer. This one I did put wool in, so I think I'm going to make another purple one for my granddaughter, because I don't want to waste the wool. So these two are wool. This one is polyester. Yeah, fun stuff. There they are. Thanks for joining me. Happy crafting. Give it a try. It's fun. And, you know, you can give them as gifts. And gift giving is fun. If you would please subscribe. I am very, very, very close to 3,000. Last I checked, let me check again. But I am very close, and there will be a gift giving session for when I reach 3,000. $29.90. I got 10 more to go. 10 more to go till I reach 3,000. So I appreciate you being here as always. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to everybody else. Take care of yourself. Happy crafting. Go make some chickens. Have some fun. Pick out your wildest, craziest fabric that you don't know why you bought it, and go use it, especially if it's bright and cheerful like this. Makes me want to go find more bright and cheerful fabric. Love y'all. Take care. Bye, everybody.